Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, where the hell are we off to today? Well, we're off on our way up to Bellingham, Washington. Why is that? Well, I'm going to introduce you to a new sponsor on the channel. That's Taylor Freelance. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk to all the good folks up there. I'm going to teach you everything that they can do. I'm going to show off some of their products. I want you to get to know the people who are going to be sponsoring some videos. So today, from Bellingham, Washington, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about Meet Taylor Freelance. They make all your firearms better. Okay, hey everyone, I am here with Robin Taylor of Taylor Freelance. Robin, thanks for having me here.
Glad to have you up.
Did a tour of the facility up here in beautiful Bellingham, Washington. They got a really, really cool thing going on. I want to talk to you about Taylor Freelance. I want to talk to you about what you're doing, in particular, a couple of products. But before we go there, why don't you tell my viewers just a little bit about what is Taylor Freelance and what you guys doing here?
Well, our specialty here at Taylor Freelance is we focus on the bottom half of the gun. My history is with USPSA and Steel Challenge style competition shooting. So in that world, there's a lot of focus on the length of magazine base pads and making your magazines of a particular length, and also of making the gun heavier and more ergonomic so that you can drive it faster.
Okay, so our viewers understand here is you are manufacturing components for firearms that make a firearm more ergonomically efficient for the shooter and make them more proficient in use of the firearm. Is that right?
Make the firearm easier to use, yes.
Okay, great. Let's talk about, I know you guys make a lot of products here, but let's talk about two products that you're particularly proud of.
Sure.
You should be, because they're awesome products. The first one is this base plate. Let's talk about that.
Yep, this base plate, we've been making base pads like this for 30 years now. This is literally our 30th anniversary model. And this one's for a Canic. It adds 4 rounds to the addition. It starts as an 18 round magazine. With this on it, it becomes a 22, sometimes a 23 if you add a special follower to it. And it comes on and off without any tools now, which is a new feature for us as of recently. I've got a little gate piece here on the bottom that lets it go on and off. But yeah, we've been making these for a long time, and they're very, very, very popular with the competitive shooting community in particular, and especially Canic drivers.
Now, the thing I learned, though, today in talking to you is, more ammo is better, right?
More ammo is always better.
More ammo is always better. But in addition to that, this actually changes the ergonomic design and how the firearm may sit in your hand. Is that right?
That is more so true of the backstrap than it is of the base pad. But where the ergonomics of the base pad come in mind is almost all mags are cut at an angle, like you see here on this. When you go to speed load that angled section is sitting against your palm. So if anything goes wrong during your reload, that angled piece tends to squirt out of your hand. So almost all of the stuff we make that's extended squares that up so that the line of force coming from your palm into the gun comes in a straight line.
And then you also texture the bottom, right?
And I also the texture of the bottom to help prevent that squirting out of your hand idea.
Okay. And right now, Taylor Freelance is making base pads for how many different types of magazines?
I want to say 26.
26 different types of magazines?
I think so.
All major manufacturers?
That's a guess off the top of my head, but we do Glocks, Walthers, Canics, SIGs, Springfield XDMs, SIG 365, X Macros. We do all kinds of different stuff.
Okay.
Like I said, our focus is the bottom half of the gun. You know, if you need trigger parts, we're not your people. But if you're looking to make the most of what your magazines can do for you and make them handle better and do all that kind of stuff, then yeah, we're your Huckleberry.
Well, then, speaking of really allowing your firearm to handle a lot better, let's talk about the brass backstrap. All right. Now let's talk about, you developed this.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about how you developed this first.
So first off, when I started shooting competitively, I went through a couple different guns to begin with. I started with revolvers, shot a 1911 briefly, shot a CZ briefly, and I ended up in Glocks. And I shot Glocks long before Glocks were cool. At the time, nobody made any parts for Glocks. And the Glocks I was shooting Glock 22 and 40 Smith & Wesson, which is a hard kick-in, obnoxious gun compared to the 9mm version of the same gun. And I ended up buying sort of a badly made heel weight for it to help calm it down. I was shooting for the University of Washington at the time, and I could only shoot it about 75 rounds at a time before my hands started shaking. So I bought this heel weighty thing, and it helped calm the gun down, but it didn't work ergonomically. It was just it was only one-sided. It was just poorly done. So I made an improved version of that, stuck it on my gun, and ran it for a while. And then the guy that was making the heel weights went out of business, and I thought, well, okay, heck, I'll make this proper piece. So what I made with the Seattle Slug Mag Guide is a piece of brass that fills up the entire grips, the entire void in the grip on a Glock. On a Gen 3 Glock in particular, there's a big open hole between the magazine well and the back of the grip. So I filled all of that with brass, and then I built a little extension down below that to act as a little mini mag well that it's also made of brass. So you're adding 3.5 ounces of weight to a gun whose frame all up only weighs 5.5 ounces.
But that weight was being added internally inside
a little teeny bit on the
pistol
outside.
grip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, that's been kind of a cult classic thing for years.
And that was called the
Seattle Slug.
The Seattle Slug.
Yep.
Good name.
And so it's all of those slug insert things that you see, all the plugs and all that kind of stuff. They're all derivations of the Seattle Slug. Meaning they're very original derivations. I'm not trying to take anything away from those guys, but we were the first ones to come out with something like that. And ours is so heavy, that's really the big change. It changes the way the gun handles in your hand. Now, roll ahead 20 years. Now Glocks are cool, and there's a bazillion plastic 9mm autos out there, polymer built 9mm autos. And
there's no shortage of those.
And all the polymer 9mm autos have the same basic design quirks as the Glock does, in that they're all very top heavy. The frame itself doesn't weigh anything, which is great if you're carrying it around all day, but once you go to shoot it, it's a problem because it's you, this little teeny plastic frame, and the bullet. What we did about 4 years ago, something like that? I don't remember exactly. 4 or 5 years ago, is we started coming out with a replaceable backstrap. So instead of being something that goes inside the gun, this is the whole removable backstrap piece that is so popular now.
Right.
We take the same basic item, but we made it, instead of being a hollow plastic shell, it's a solid piece of brass. Same idea as the Seattle Slug, but scrolled forward to fit on a Canic, to fit on a SIG, to fit on a Walther, to fit on any of the popular ones. So like the one you have in your hand, that's the new PDP. That's the one we just came out with for the PDP F series.
Yeah, well, and then why don't you just go ahead and show our viewers how this is actually put onto a firearm?
Yeah, no problem, Bill. Okay, so Bill, you asked me about how the backstraps work. So this is a Canic Mate, one of the modern versions of the Canic, and with the backstrap removed, the gun's very, very light in your hand. If I go to tip it to one side, it's like I have to put my finger like way out on the frame. I'm not even sure I can get it up there enough. Yeah, it's still trying to fall out of my hand, even though I've got my thumb up, my index finger way up like that. It's very. Once I get my finger down below that, the gun is just immediately flipping out of my hand. I can't control it the way I would like to. But if I put a brass backstrap on that, ta-da! Now it just lays there, and I've got my finger way down low. And the gun, when I throw the gun to one side, it'll roll out of my hand a little, but not anything like what it was before, which makes it much easier to instead of having to hold the gun exactly where I want it, I can almost let go and do a reload with it. So, whereas without that, now I'm dealing with nervous gun again. I can load to it, but I have to kind of hold it at the angle I want. So for me, that's one of the biggest advantages, is just that balance feel. The second element of it is I'm adding almost 4 ounces worth of weight in the Canic's case. And that 4 ounces worth of weight in the frame is something like 50–60% of the non-reciprocating mass in the gun. So while I'm not eliminating any of the recoil, I'm slowing the recoil down. You know, the physics of the matter is you don't absorb it. You're still taking the same amount of hit, but you're taking it at a slower velocity. So the hit you take feels more gentle, more like a bump more like a softball than a fastball. So even though it's the same energy, a softball hits you differently than a hardball does.
So would you agree with me that really there's a lot of benefits to this, but the follow-up shot, that second and third shot,
it's much easier. It's much easier, yeah. And just from a lot of people are recoil sensitive. In my case, I'm more blast sensitive than recoil sensitive, but this definitely helps because it takes the edge off that recoil signature, and so you're less likely to flinch, less likely to jerk, especially your second shot.
Okay, Robin. Really cool ideas. Now, in addition to these two products that I know you're extremely proud of, what else is Taylor Freelance manufacturing around here?
Oh, all kinds of. We're a contract manufacturer for various other firms, which I can't get into that in any detail, but there's a lot more going on here than what you see.
Okay.
We've run a whole bunch of other base pad types to include the what we call the T-Mag system, which is a patented AR-15 coupler system that I showed you earlier. Yeah,
actually, someone got that over here. I want everyone to see this. Now, of course, in Washington State, this will be with grandfathered-in magazines.
Correct.
How cool is this?
Yep.
So tell our viewers about that.
So When you buy a coupler, there are a lot of couplers available for ARs, and the ARs they're either straps in the middle or they're the one big monolithic block of metal. And so if you go to travel with them as a 3-gun competitor, or if you're just moving across country for whatever reason, you can't really throw it in your bag and go because the mags will get crushed, and it's just this huge piece of metal. In this case, these are 2 independent base pads with a coupler in the middle that's through bolted.
This is so cool.
So when you spin these bolts off on either end, this piece comes out in the middle, and it's the size of a pack of cigarettes. You throw that in your range bag, whatever, and you have 2 plus 3 base pads with curved high traction bases on them, independent of each other. Where the funny story with this one is I had just come out with this, and I met Maurice Parrish from Lake Forest PD. Hey, Maurice. Hopefully I got your name right. But Lake Forest kept an AR in there as their cruiser rifle.
Right.
They didn't have cruiser shotguns; they had cruiser rifles.
Okay, sure.
And they would keep a 20-round mag in the gun in the car, and then a 30-round mag in the door of the vehicle. And so Maurice and I are talking at TriggerCon years ago, and I look at him and he's describing this, and I said, "So if you get in a gunfight, you're going to go so bad that you got to get your rifle, and you go to the gunfight, and you run out of bullets, you got to run back to the car?"
Yeah.
And he looks at me and says, "I know." And so now, Lake Forest PD, at least last time I talked to him, is running a 20 on one side, which now becomes a 23, and a 30 on the other side in the cruiser.
33.
So now when they bail out of the car, they got 56 rounds on the gun. Or if they're downloading it by 154 rounds on the gun, which beats the heck out of 20. Let me with no extra size.
Around here?
More ammo is always better.
Okay, now this is one of the most important things, and I really want all of our viewers to understand this. And this is important, I know, to a lot of my viewers. This is all locally made,
100%.
locally manufactured. This is all American made, right here in Bellingham, Washington.
Yep, with the exception of screws and springs and things that we can't do ourselves.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so once again, Robin Taylor Freelance, thank you so much for having me up here.
Absolutely.
You got a great thing going.
Thank you.
Listen, my viewers are going to be really interested. So where can they go online and find out where they can get all these totally awesome products?
Oh, yeah. You want to go online to taylorfreelancestore.com/WGL. As in there, we've got some specific stuff related to WGL, but also some Washington resident specific stuff, talking about can I buy magazine parts with under the current mag ban, all that kind of stuff. The answer is yes, but you'll get the answers in more detail there.
Listen, if you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of your Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, from Taylor Freelance, thanks for watching, and stay safe.